Για 15 χρόνια η Ισλανδία ήταν παράδειγμα ανάπτυξης και ευζοίας. Οι 320.000 κατοικοί της απολάμβαναν το τρίτο υψηλότερο κατά κεφαλήν εισόδημα στον κόσμο. Το 2007, σύμφωνα με τον ΟΗΕ, η νησιωτική χώρα ήταν η καλύτερη να ζεις. Αλλά πώς μια χώρα που παραδοσιακά βασιζόταν στην παραγωγή τροφής, στην αλληλεία και τη γεωργία, είχε κάνει ένα τέτοιο άλμα? Οι Βίκινγκς είχαν ανακαλύψει τα ευεργετήματα του νεοφιλελευθερισμού. Μια χάρτινη οικονομία που δεν βασιζόταν στο να παράγεις κάτι, αλλά στις χρηματοπιστωτικές συναλλαγές της αγοράς, κυβερνούσε το νησί. Και ξαφνικά, το 2008, το πάρτι τελείωσε. Στις αρχές της δεκαετίας του 90, η Ισλανδία άρχισε να ιδιωτικοποιεί τις τρεις τράπεζες που είχε όλες και όλες και που μέχρι τότε άνοικαν στο κράτος.
It was a country that decided, like almost every other country in Europe 20-30 years ago, to adopt economic policies that emphasized the privatization of the banks, the deregulation of the economy, believed that financial institutions, if allowed to grow, would bring prosperity to all. And it turned out to be a very dangerous policy in many ways.
You have to keep in mind what was happening internationally. The world was full of liquidity for several years because of the monetary policy in the United States, which was decided by Mr. Greenspan. He lowered the interest rates so that they were the lowest they had been for 100 years. Money was almost free, and all banks, including ours, took advantage of this. They were borrowing money abroad. They also had very high ratings from the rating agency. It was a terrible mistake by the rating agencies, but for a while some of the Icelandic banks had AAA rating, like the state of Germany, like the government of Germany or the United States. When you look back, that's ridiculous, but that was the case. So they were operating in this international environment, borrowing money, cheap, lending money, acquiring assets, abroad, buying assets abroad, buying other banks, etc., etc.
Αυτή ήταν η νέα βαριά βιομηχανία της Ισλανδίας. Μια βιομηχανία που απέφερε εύκολα μεγάλα κέρδη απλώς και μόνο από την κυκλοφορία του χρήματος. Την ήλεγχαν τρεις ομάδες τεχνοκρατών, νέοι στην ηλικία, φιλόδοξοι, που ανταγωνίζονταν μεταξύ τους για το καλύτερο σκορ, τα μεγαλύτερα κέρδη. Με την τραπεζική βιομηχανία να γιγαντώνεται μέρα με τη μέρα, οι πάλαιποτέ ψαράδες, γεωργοί και κτηνοτρόφοι είχαν άφθονο πλαστικό χρήμα και δάνεια. Όλη η αγορά είχε απελευθερωθεί. Οι επιχειρήσεις απολάμβαναν μικρή φορολογία και οι ελεγκτικοί μηχανισμοί του κράτους ατροφούσαν.
It was like an insane runaway party. No one looking after anything. I mean, everybody is drunk and everybody is doing drugs and everybody is spending money and the music is loud, and you don't even have the police to call because there is no police.
The society as a whole got caught up in this development, and there was not really a critical discussion in the country against these Viking capitalists. So at least by staying silent, people acknowledged and accepted this development. This is of course something that we collectively are responsible for.
I believe that people were going over the top, buying all kinds of... I did it. I'm not innocent. I did all kinds of crazy things because I thought, wow, this is the time to do it. Go abroad, buy a new car. Of course, everybody was going crazy and doing things that were over the top. They were buying old apartments, taking everything out, putting new stuff in, young kids, about 20, just like millionaires or something. And it was really sad. It was really sad. And the hospitals and the schools were not getting any attention, because of this. So the banks were really ruling everything. And the government was just watching. Because of the capitalists, they didn't worry about this.
This cannot go on indefinitely. You don't make money out of nothing. And all this money that everyone thought that was being circulated was just virtual money. It was not really there. No one had grown more fruit or raised more sheep or created anything.
Οι Ισλανδικές τράπεζες επεκτάθηκαν και στο εξωτερικό, στην Ολλανδία και στο Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο, προσελκύοντας αρκετούς καταθέτες με τα υψηλά τους επιτόκια. Έφτασαν να γιγαντωθούν τόσο πολύ που κατήχαν εικονικό πλούτο πολλαπλάσιο του ακαθάριστου εθνικού προϊόντος της ίδιας της χώρας.
This all came to a very quick and dramatic end in October 2008, when the three major banks with extensive international operations went under, and it was a severe shock to the whole of the Icelandic economy.
Τι συνέβη? Πώς μια καλωστημένη μηχανή παραγωγής κέρδους μπορεί να διαλυθεί ξαφνικά μέσα σε λίγους μήνες? Το 2008, απ' την άλλη πλευρά του Ατλαντικού, ένας τραπεζικός κολοσσός, η Lehman Brothers, καταρρέει. Η τραπεζική αγορά παγώνει. Επικρατεί δυσπιστία. Οι τράπεζες κοιτούν να κλείσουν τα ανοίγματά τους και μαζεύουν ρευστό. Οι τρεις Ισλανδικές τράπεζες χρωστούν συνολικά $84 δισεκατομμύρια και η κεντρική τράπεζα της Ισλανδίας δεν έχει τόσα λεφτά για να καλύψει το έλλειμμα. Οι τράπεζες οδηγούνται με μαθηματική ακρίβεια στον γκρεμό και μαζί τους η οικονομία της χώρας.
We had created a monster which couldn't be rescued, and it came crumbling down completely. At this time, the Icelandic government was desperately going around the world trying to shop for money to bail out the banks. But luckily enough, foreign lenders was not willing to lend Iceland the money. If Iceland had been lent the money at the time from the IMF, from the European Union or whatever, that would have been spent on trying to save the banks, and it would have fallen on the shoulders of the Icelandic taxpayers. So this was really a blessing in disguise, that foreign countries, the IMF and the EU, was not willing at the time to lend us the money. So I think we have to thank them for not lending us the money at the time.
We said to the banks and to the rest of the world, particularly the creditors in those banks, we are not going to guarantee the external debt of the banking system. The banks were private companies. The people and the companies abroad that were lending them money did so at their own risk and therefore will have to face the consequences of irresponsible lending to the Icelandic banks. This was a key decision. We did not, in other words, socialize the debt of the banking system.
Οι ξένοι καταθέτες, Ολλανδοί και Βρετανοί, είδαν τις καταθέσεις τους να παγώνουν. Όμως οι συνέπειες για την Ισλανδία ήταν τραγικές. Η οικονομία της βρέθηκε στο χείλος της καταστροφής. Το νόμισμα της χώρας, η Ισλανδική κορώνα, υποτιμήθηκε απότομα περίπου 80%. Κάθε οικονομική δραστηριότητα πάγωσε, με συντριπτικές επιπτώσεις στις ζωές των περισσότερων Ισλανδών.
It was just imaginary. And then when the fairy tale was over, you know, the imaginary things disappear. When you wake up, the dream is gone. And reality takes over, and this is reality.
Ο Χέρτουρ Χάουζερ είχε πάρει στεγαστικό δάνειο πριν από την κρίση. Σήμερα είναι άνεργος και κινδυνεύει να χάσει το σπίτι του.
We were able to pay our debts while we were still working two jobs. My wife and I both were working. But when we lost both our jobs, and at the same time the krona was devaluated, so the loan went up, the value of the house went down, and we had almost no income. So we fell behind.
Ο Στούρλα Τζόνσον ήταν ιδιοκτήτης μιας επιχείρησης κατασκευαστικών μηχανημάτων που πήγαινε καλά. Πλέον τα έχει χάσει όλα.
My phone didn't ring for 6 months. So it was going from plenty of job to nothing in just 6 months. That was amazing how fast it was going. They just shut down everything here in Iceland, and thousands of company and construction company just went down to the drain. I'm struggling today to keep my house, and we can say similar like almost 50% of people in Iceland.
Yes, well, like, you know, when I moved here with a loan, and that was like my future. That is all gone, and now, yeah, only loans are left on this house that I'm supposed to pay every month, and they're too high. So I have stopped paying, yes, because there's so many people going through bankruptcy. The what do you call, the list is so long that you get more time to spend in your apartment that you don't own anymore before they throw you out.
The last eviction that I attended was the ugliest thing I have ever seen in this country. That was a house that was wrongly, I mean wrongly, going to be taken away from a woman. That was a single mother, and she was only behind 2 payments when they foreclosed the deal.
Sjá hetjuna, sjáuði hetjuna, eða þó nú væri. Sjáuði hetjuna brýst inn, hjá gestgjafanda.
She closed the house. She didn't come out because she was not going to be evicted. She was not making the agreement that she was being evicted from her home. This was a very sad day in Iceland.
Þeir boruðu sig inn í húsi hjá konunum.
We could not believe that this was happening.
Og ég verði farið heim í kvöld. Ofbeldi.
I myself, I have the same problem, you know, because all my loans are in index loans, and I can see that my apartment was I bought it for 16.5 millions in 2005. Now I have paid 130,000 kronas every month. And do you know where my loan is now? In 22 millions. Do you think that is rational? It's 2005 and it's 2011. And I have paid every month higher and higher and higher per month. And it's the loan is just getting higher because of the indexed. This is the sickest of all sick in this capitalism.
Every time the gas price goes up or the food price goes up, then my loan goes up. And if this goes on, I will lose that house because the loans are getting so high that they're over the price of the house. So I cannot sell it.
Δεκάδες άνθρωποι στράφηκαν στα κοινωνικά παντοπολία για να επιβιώσουν, πράγμα ασυνήθιστο για ένα σκανδιναβικό κράτος. Μόνο αυτό το κοινωνικό παντοπολείο εξυπηρετεί περίπου 750 οικογένειες.
There are a lot of people who needs to come here because they have lost everything they have, and the things that we do here every Wednesday, we distribute food to people, we help people to get their medicine, heart medicine, and also we help people with clothing. But the groups that are getting bigger every week is the unemployed people.
Af því að peningarnir eru ekki nógur sem ég hef fyrir mat, sem ég fæ ellilaun. Ég fæ minna, ég taka meiri skatta.
Ξέσπασαν πρωτοφανείς διαμαρτυρίες για τα δεδομένα της χώρας. Για πρώτη φορά μετά το Δεύτερο Παγκόσμιο Πόλεμο, οι διαδηλωτές στο Ρέικιαβικ ήρθαν αντιμέτωποι με τα δακρυγόνα της αστυνομίας.
Before the financial crash, the Icelandic people didn't give a damn about politics. They didn't think about this. Everything was just going fine. And we did, like people in Europe, we just went voting every fourth year, and then we went home again. We didn't think about it so much. Then the crash comes, and all of a sudden people are engaging themselves. They are thinking about the society. They are saying, why did that happen? How could that happen?
Οι διαδηλώσεις έφεραν αποτέλεσμα. Η κυβέρνηση εξαναγκάστηκε σε παραίτηση. Εκλέχθηκε μια νέα, με τη συμμαχία κέντρο αριστεράς και αριστεράς. Αυτή η κυβέρνηση το πρώτο που έκανε ήταν να δει πως θα αποζημιώσει τους ξένους καταθέτες. Άρχισε να διαπραγματεύεται με το Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο και την Ολλανδία για τους όρους αποπληρωμής των χρεών, που οι ιδιωτικές εταιρείες, οι τράπεζες δηλαδή, είχαν δημιουργήσει. Η συμφωνία υπερψηφίστηκε από το Κοινοβούλιο και πήγε στον πρόεδρο της χώρας, τον κύριο Ólafur Grímsson, για επικύρωση. Ο πρόεδρος όμως αρνήθηκε να την υπογράψει και κάλεσε σε δημοψήφισμα.
It was a question of whether the ordinary people of Iceland, farmers and fishermen and nurses and doctors and young people and old people, should be made responsible for the failure of a private bank. To put it differently, do we have a system where the success of the banks leads to great profit for the shareholders and big bonuses for the bankers, but the failure of the banks leads to higher taxes by ordinary people? Do we nationalize the losses, but privatize the profits?
Η Ευρωζώνη γίνεται έξαλλη με την απόφαση του Ισλανδού Προέδρου.
The Icelandic people, if they were to reach that conclusion, would effectively be saying that Iceland doesn't want to be part of the international financial system, that Iceland doesn't want to have access to multinational, national and bilateral funding, and doesn't want to be regarded as a safe counterparty with whom to do business. I don't think the Icelandic people would be sensible if they reached that conclusion. So we will work with other governments to support the Icelandic government in getting the necessary referendum support.
Στη χώρα του, ο πρόεδρος κατηγορήθηκε από το μεγαλύτερο μέρος της πολιτικής τάξης για λαϊκισμό.
No, it was not populistic at all, even on the contrary, because the opposition to my decision when I took it in the early days of 2010 was enormous and widespread. Majority of the parliament, the government parties, the ministers, many of my biggest supporters who helped to make me president in 1996 were absolutely furious at my decision. Every government in Europe was against my decision. There were all kinds of predictions that this would lead to the isolation of Iceland, to the collapse of Iceland. We would be a pariah state in the world. Some people used the concept of the Cuba of the North, and so on and so forth.
Ήταν το πρώτο δημοψήφισμα που διοργανώθηκε ποτέ στην Ισλανδία. Οι πολίτες κλήθηκαν να αποφασίσουν για το αν θα πρέπει να πληρώσουν οι ίδιοι τη ζημιά που είχαν προκαλέσει οι τράπεζες.
We were just supposed to say yes, we pay. For what? For a private company that was really bad run. I mean, that is not my fault and nobody's fault. It's the fault of the owner of the company. And the people of Iceland said no.
Θορυβημένοι Άγγλοι και Ολλανδοί από το ηχηρό αποτέλεσμα του δημοψηφίσματος κάλεσαν την Ισλανδική κυβέρνηση προκειμένου να ξανασυζητήσουν το θέμα. Τους προσέφεραν καλύτερους όρους από την προηγούμενη φορά. Ωστόσο και πάλι ο πρόεδρος έδειξε την κάλπη του δημοψηφίσματος. Για άλλη μια φορά το αποτέλεσμα ήταν όχι.
The problem was not just the economic recovery. The problem was also the political recovery, the social recovery of the nation. How would the people of Iceland regain their self-confidence, the trust, the belief in the future, the belief in their own power? And in this respect, I think the referendum, by giving each and every Icelander, young and old, man and woman, the right to vote and have their say, made a big contribution to re-establishing the self-confidence of the nation, to bring the people together, to make them believe again that Iceland could have a successful future.
Og þess vegna, ég skil ekki hvað skilgreiningu fólk hér er að nota fyrir grassroots, vegna þess að hér eru einmitt flokkar, meðal annars einu flokkurinn á Íslandi sem hefur einhvern
Η αλήθεια είναι πως δεν είναι συνηθισμένο φαινόμενο ο πρόεδρος μιας χώρας να συμμετέχει σε λαϊκές συνελεύσεις, όπως αυτή εδώ, στο ισόγειο μιας πολυκατοικίας σε μια γειτονιά της πρωτεύουσας. Ούτε να περιμένει τη σειρά του να μιλήσει.
Lýðræði verður bara í stofnunum og þrautskipulegum samtökum og öflugum fjölmiðlum, þá verður það ekki svipur hjá sjón. Þess vegna það sem þið eruð að gera hvert og eitt ykkar með sínum hætti nauðsynlegur þáttur í því að viðhalda lífsmarkinu í hinu lýðræðislega samfélagi í okkar landi.
Επίσης, δεν είναι συνηθισμένο να βλέπεις τη σύζυγο του Προέδρου να σπέβδει να αγκαλιάσει διαδηλωτές την ώρα που εκείνοι πετούν αυγά και άλλα αντικείμενα στους πολιτικούς.
You come to those crossroads that on the one hand are the demands of the financial market, and on the other is the democratic will of the people. My answer was that, of course, faced with such a choice, we have to go with the democratic will of the people. Because what is Europe's greatest contribution to civilization? It's not the market economy, it's democracy, which is Europe's greatest contribution to the world. There are countries in present times that have very strong market economies, but very little democracy. So when we come to those crossroads that we are forced to choose, my answer, when all the analysis had been swept away, was crystal clear that the democratic will of the people had to prevail.
Το Νοέμβριο του 2009, απλοί Ισλανδοί πολίτες άρχισαν να ξαναγράφουν το σύνταγμα της χώρας τους. Η Άστρος, 25 ετών, είναι φοιτήτρια. Είναι μία από τους 25 Ισλανδούς που εκλέχθηκαν για να συμμετάσχουν στην αναθεώρηση του συντάγματος. Η όλη διαδικασία γινόταν μέσω του ίντερνετ. Αυτή τη στιγμή το αναθεωρημένο από τους πολίτες σύνταγμα βρίσκεται στα χέρια των πολιτικών. Εναπόκειται σε εκείνους πλέον να αποφασίσουν εάν θα το στείλουν σε δημοψήφισμα προκειμένου να επικυρωθεί από τον ίδιο το λαό ή αν οι αλλαγές παραπεμφθούν στις καλένδες. Για να βγουν όμως νέες ιδέες και νέοι άνθρωποι στο προσκήνιο, η χώρα έπρεπε να αντιμετωπίσει το παρελθόν της. Να υπάρξει αντιπαράθεση με τους εκπροσώπους του παλιού πολιτικού και οικονομικού συστήματος που οδήγησαν τη χώρα στο χείλος της καταστροφής. Η Ειδική Ερευνητική Επιτροπή της Βουλής απεφάνθη ότι ο πρώην Πρωθυπουργός Geir ήταν ένοχος για οικονομική αμέλεια και τον παρέμπεψε στη δικαιοσύνη.
No, I feel it's a ridiculous process. It's justice turned on its head. It is politics dressed up like a criminal case. It is shameful of my old political opponents to try to get at me, my party, in this way. Some people say, well, you know, we're just dealing with the old political system. We're just trying to, you know, punish the system the way it was. Well, they're not going to put the system in prison.
Κατά την περίοδο της παγκόσμιας οικονομικής κρίσης από το 2007 έως σήμερα, ο πρώην Πρωθυπουργός Geir έγινε ο πρώτος πολιτικός ηγέτης στον κόσμο που κατηγορήθηκε για εγκληματική ευθύνη.
You don't settle such differences in the courtroom. But that is unfortunately what is happening here, and the ultimate penalty is 2 years in prison, plus a lot of costs associated with the case.
Για να οδηγηθεί ο Χάρντε στη δικαιοσύνη, ενεργοποιήθηκε ένα ειδικό δικαστήριο. Το Landsdómur συστάθηκε το 1905 για να ερευνά κατηγορίες εναντίον υπουργών. Αυτή ήταν η πρώτη υπόθεση που ασχολήθηκε ποτέ.
I think there is a good reason why this law has never been used again before, and I don't think it will be used again. It was like a sleeping paragraph in the law book, never used. Nobody thought it would be used. I am confident how it will end. My conscience is clear. I have not broken the law. I have never done anything like that. And I don't think what we did in the, for instance, the fall of 2008, when we really took the important decisions to save the banking system and therefore a lot of other things. Those decisions do not call for the Prime Minister to go to prison. Quite the contrary.
Δεν είναι όμως μόνο ο κύριος Χάρντε που αντιμετωπίζει την ανώτατη ποινή. Υπουργοί και υψηλόβαθμα στελέχη τραπεζών καλούνται να λογοδοτήσουν. Ο μόνιμος γραμματέας του Υπουργείου Οικονομικών έχει ήδη καταδικαστεί. Κανείς δεν αμφισβήτησε την αξιοπιστία της Ειδικής Εξεταστικής Επιτροπής που μέσα σε 15 μήνες από τη σύγκλησή της κατέληξε σε πόρισμα 2.400 σελίδων. Το μαύρο πόρισμα, όπως αποκαλείται στην Ισλανδία, αναγνώστηκε για 6 μέρες χωρίς σταματημό από 45 ηθοποιούς στο Δημοτικό Θέατρο της πρωτεύουσας. Για τους Ισλανδούς ήταν ένα είδος κάθαρσης. Η Ισλανδία μπορεί να άφησε τις υπερδιεγκωμένες τράπεζές της να καταρρεύσουν, αλλά η οικονομία της ήταν αδύνατο να ορθοποδήσει χωρίς βοήθεια. Πήρε περίπου 2,5 δισεκατομμύρια δολάρια από σκανδιναβικά κράτη και άλλα 2 δισεκατομμύρια από το Διεθνές Νομισματικό Ταμείο που επανεμφανίστηκε στην Ευρώπη μετά από 35 χρόνια.
I was still a leader in the opposition when IMF came, and I already then, before I became a minister, made a very firm point to them. Do you realize that you are coming into a Nordic welfare country, an open democratic welfare country? That's a new experience for you, and you have to be aware of this.
Στις διαπραγματεύσεις, η κυβέρνηση πέτυχε να πείσει τα στελέχη του Διεθνούς Νομισματικού Ταμείου ότι το σκανδιναβικό μοντέλο του κράτους πρόνοιας θα πρέπει να διατηρηθεί ανέπαφο.
And they were critical in the beginning, but when they saw we were serious and we had good arguments for what we were doing, normally they accepted and said, well, okay, if you think this is the right thing to do. And then they sort of allowed us more and more flexibility to do it in our own way, to architect the measures as we thought was best suitable for Iceland.
Ο Φράνε Κροσβαντόφσκι, εκπρόσωπος του Διεθνούς Νομισματικού Ταμείου στην Ισλανδία, ήταν στην αρχή εξαιρετικά επιφυλακτικός με τις προτάσεις της κυβέρνησης. Εξεπλάγει όταν είδε ότι οι εναλλακτικές λύσεις έδιναν καρπούς.
It's probably right that the middle class or working class people end up paying disproportionately for the costs of crises. It's very unfortunate, but that does seem to happen. In the case of Iceland, one of the really notable features of this program that the authorities devised and implemented is that they took quite a lot of measures to protect the poorer half of the population, the middle class and the poor, from the adjustment. The post-crisis period has been a period in which the inequality of income distribution has become actually less rather than more.
Overall, I think we can say that we can be satisfied how things have turned out for Iceland, because Iceland is out of the danger zone. There is no discussion anymore about default or any such things. We expect growth to amount to 2.5 to 3%. Unemployment slightly on the way down and so forth. So most of the indicators now are showing improvement, but we still have a long way to go.
Η Ισλανδία προσπάθησε να διαχειριστεί την κρίση όσο καλύτερα μπορούσε, όχι με βάση τις απαιτήσεις των αγορών που την έφεραν στο χείλος της καταστροφής, αλλά με επίκεντρο τον πολίτη και τα συμφέροντά του. Οι τράπεζες έχουν ξεκινήσει να διαγράφουν δάνεια πολιτών. Υπολογίζεται πως μέχρι τα τέλη του 2011 είχαν διαγράψει οφειλές που έφταναν συνολικά τις 196 δισεκατομμύρια κορώνες ή 1,2 δισεκατομμύρια ευρώ. Το ποσό αυτό αντιστοιχεί στο 13% του ακαθάριστου εθνικού προϊόντος της χώρας και κάνει την Ισλανδία να κατέχει πλέον το παγκόσμιο ρεκόρ στη διαγραφή χρέους νοικοκυριών. Ωστόσο, οι οργισμένοι Ισλανδοί απαιτούν περισσότερα από την κυβέρνησή τους. Οι διαδηλώσεις συνεχίζονται. Οι καθημερινοί άνθρωποι πιστεύουν πως τα λάθη του παρελθόντος επαναλαμβάνονται και ότι τα ερωτήματα που γεννήθηκαν από την κρίση παραμένουν ακόμα αναπάντητα. Ποιος είναι ο πυρήνας του προβλήματος που έχει εξωθήσει στην ανέχεια τους λαούς από την Αργεντινή μέχρι τη Γουατεμάλα, από την Τινησία μέχρι την Κένια και από την Ισλανδία μέχρι την Ελλάδα?
It is the right of the people to get rid of a government that no longer operates on their behalf. And we'll keep on doing this until we have a group of people working in our parliament on behalf of the nation, on behalf of the people, working for the people.
I think the governments, not only here but in Europe in generally, they are not listening. They are not working for the people. They just want to restore the system like it was before, and they are doing that here too.
Nobody should get deceived about them, and I think that there was a big mistake here, that people thought that it would really matter if they would change the people in power and not change the system. We have to change the system.
I don't believe in anything left or right because it seems to be the same rule. They just break their promises, they just give promises and then you choose them and then they don't do anything about it. So I'm not interested in any government that acts like this or any banks. And I just want the power to the people.